So, y'all were waiting for some music. I know you were, but guess what? It's not coming because I have something special for you. And so, do you guys realize that in 12 days is Christmas Day? And no, I'm not thinking about Christmas as it relates to Santa Claus. So, I want to give you a little gift that my mom, dad, and my brother, we used to have a special thing that we did in the living room. Now, I'm dating myself when I tell y'all this. Well, maybe I'm dating my parents when I tell y'all this, but so we had this long thing in the living room. Well, it was speakers. It was like, I forgot what they call them. But anyway, there was a stereo that you pulled out in the middle of it. And of course, it had the little turntable on top, but it had an A-track. And what I remember is that in December, no, Silent Night by the Temptations was not the first song that we learned for Christmas. No, I had Mahalia Jackson's vinyl record. And one of the songs that I remember was Go Tell It on the Mountain. And that was our favorite song. So before we bring this esteemed inspirational singer to the platform, I want to give you just a little bit of what I remember from Go Tell It on the Mountain, because if you don't know what this episode is all about, she is going to tell it over and beyond the mountain. So here it goes. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ was born. Boom. So if you don't understand what that's all about, maybe you need to research the song and realize Santa Claus is not the reason for the season. All right, let's get into it because today is definitely, it's dope. And like I said, Lonna is going to come to this platform and she is going to really, really, really talk to you about what it means to be seated. Now, y'all already know I'm going to have to let her take control of this platform because y'all know Lily Mae don't know nothing about being seated. It's like, y'all know I can sit down sometime. But she's going to talk about being seated in his presence. Seated. Without further ado, Miss Lonna Hardin.
Hey! Hi! So good to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Lonna, thank you for giving me the opportunity to broadcast on Sunday and broadcast in decency and in order. I couldn't have put you on any other day but today, because today is a day of rest and a day of reverence. And even though we're technically working, we're still working in our official capacity as King's kids. So I'm all about it. I'm all about it today. But Lonna, I want to jump right in. You can tell everybody who you are, but I want to jump in and let you take the lead on telling your story.
Absolutely. Well, my name is Lonna Hardin, and I'm a singer, author, speaker, and a coach as well. And my new album, my new EPK just came out called Seated, which is, being played across the world. And it's so interesting because, when this year started, I had no idea that most of the world would end up being seated, right? And I could tell you that this song was given to me over 20 years ago. And I actually have to tell the story. Yeah, because it's really interesting. My mother had a brain aneurysm. So I always tell the story. She had a brain aneurysm. She had a stroke on both sides of her brain. She was a really powerful woman. And so at the age of 27, I found myself a caregiver to both my parents. And I remember going through that. It's so interesting that this is happening with COVID and everything like that, because I remember being in the hospital with my mom. She was in there for 5 months. 5 months. She had to relearn how to walk and talk. She didn't get back all of her ability, but my mother was a business owner. She was like, she was a minister at the church. She was all these things that you would think of when you thought about a virtuous woman. And I know that when that happened to our family, it just rocked our world. Right. And especially at 27, nobody prepares you for that, and my mom was my best friend. And so long story short, I remember one day, because my life changed, all my plans changed, everything that I thought that I wanted at that point, it meant nothing. I even remember that year. It's funny that this show is getting close to Christmas, because even just talking about this, I'm trying not to get emotional, but I remember that year, my mom finally got out of the hospital and we were in the transitional home, which was like the next point to her recovery. She had to leave, but then it was like a shorter term facility. And I remember it was Christmas and I didn't have anything. Because my job, they had fired us, and it was just like, I can't even explain it to you, but I remember that year, I was like, I don't have anything. I'm just going to look around my house and get gifts from my family. And we all went to the hospital and we spent Christmas with my mom. And I remember that it didn't matter what the gift was. It didn't matter what the material was. It was the fact that my mother was even alive. Right. And so it's just funny because, sitting here talking to you, just bringing that back to me, that I remember it was a Christmas holiday. And I remember thinking about how some things just don't have significance. And so as the months went on and the process got longer and the recovery road got longer, all of a sudden I was walking around campus, because again, I was in college at the time and I had to make some decisions. Are you going to be in college? Are you going to pursue this? Are you going to pay these bills? Or are you going to have to take a step back and figure out what's your next plan of action? And as I was walking around, all of a sudden I started hearing, far above principalities, far above the rulers of the darkness of this world, far above spiritual wickedness in places so high. That's where I'm seated. That's where I'm seated. I'm seated in you. I started hearing those words, and it just stuck in me, like, I'm seated in you. I'm seated in you. It doesn't matter what's going on. I'm seated in you, and you're far above every other thing that's happening. You're far above even this. You're far above the healthcare system. You're far above, even my college education. And so, long story short, I wish I could say that things just got like, oh, so easy. It was a long road. It was a long road. And it was a road where I had to learn empathy. I had to learn compassion. I had to learn that no matter what's going on around you, you have to stay focused and you have to stay in your seat of authority. And for me, that song for me became alive, because the beginning of the song talks about, you created me in your image. I am in your image. I sound just like you. I am a spitting image, a replica wrapped in flesh made by you. And I had to really find my identity in that time. And I found out that my identity wasn't in things. My identity wasn't in people. My identity wasn't in anything but the one who created it all. And so over the last 20 years, no matter what transitions have happened in my life, like I'm a single mother now, I've done all these things have happened. I've had to stay seated, rooted, and grounded in the one who made me. And so that's really what seated is all about. Not being shaken, not being moved by what's happening around you.
You know what? I'm not going there. I'm just gonna let it sit. I'm gonna be seated and let it sit. Let me just bring it back. It's all about you, Lonna. Cause yeah. So let's just talk about being seated. We know how the song came about, right? But what are the 5 steps people can take to become
so when
seated?
it says being seated, the first thing that you have to do is let go. Because in this situation, it was beyond my control. If you're up trying to do it in your own strength, that means you're not letting go. So you have to let go and just realize that you can't do it in your own strength. It's not about you. The second part of it is that you have to understand that there's something bigger and greater at work than you. Because sometimes if you focus on that little bit of minuscule thing, it'll knock you off your square. But when you realize there's something greater than you, it allows you to just say, okay, I'm going to humble myself and I'm going to be open to what's happening, right? Third is the fact, and I think this is one of the most critical steps to being seated, is that you have to ascend. Because we're not talking about just being seated anywhere. You're seated in a throne. You're seated in a place of authority. You're seated in power. You're seated in this place that says, I'm untouchable. It don't matter what's happening all around me. So you have to ascend and elevate your thinking, because you need to see another perspective. And when you're down here, you can't see the perspectives you need to see, right? Right. So then number 4, I think is critical too, because that's when you just have to trust the process. When you think of being seated in a chair, you're literally depending on that chair to hold you, right? You're literally just sitting there saying, you know what, it's got me. And then finally is, I think the most important part is that you have to rest, rule, and reign. They come together. You have to rest, rule, and reign.
The resting is the hard part.
Oh, yeah.
I can rule and I can reign, but then resting is the hard part. But you know what? I'm finding that people are being placed and put into position to force me to rest. People are, and I've been questioning it, you know, and I guess that's one of the things I want to talk to you about, because I've been questioning how do I exist in an industry that is filled with so many demons, and being a Black woman who seemingly publicly, who does not care. I be in the middle of the club, you know, and confess who I am and whose I am. So with that being stated, I'm going to ask you that. What is it like being an African American, you know, gospel artist today? Because in a time when so many people seemingly associate Christianity as a white man's religion, however, I think we have to focus on spirituality as that relationship with the higher being and influencing our gospel music. So what is it like, though, for you?
I think that if it's okay, I want to share something that just came to my mind to make this point really a lot clearer. So the day my album came out, which I set this date for it to come out, independent artist, you know, all that good stuff, was the day that the Supreme Court Justice died. Okay. And when she died, her seat became open. Okay. Her seat of authority became open. And that's when the world started to take notice on how important a seat really is. How a seat has the ability to influence outcomes. And a seat has the ability to influence people, right? And so when you look at that from a Christian artist perspective, sometimes I honestly, when people say, you know, you're a Black Christian artist, it's hard for me to even see myself that way, because I typically, honestly, I don't even see myself as truly a Christian. Like, I'm a Christian, I'm a Christ-centered artist, right? I believe in the gospel, right? But there's a bunch of genres. There's a bunch of experiences that have made me, you know, so when you talk about the industry, you feel like part of the reason that the industry is the way that it is because some people have not stepped into their seat. I mean, seriously, if you really look at it, and for me, I honestly, it's close to my heart, because I see a lot of the the younger generation gleaning from the celebrities and gleaning from the industry and stuff like that. But you know, when you are and I were coming up and we talk about this, we had the Clark sisters, we had people that were in their seats of authority. We had the Winans, we had Cece, we had Mahalia, we had Tremaine Hawkins. Come on, we had Andre Crouch. Come on, we had all these people who,
don't you forget Richard Smallwood.
Come on, Richard Smallwood. Come on. And we could go on and on and on because I mean, oh my gosh, my soul is anchored. My soul is anchored.
Douglas Miller. Hold up. Wait a minute. What you know about them caravans, baby? Them caravans. Inez, Cassetta George, Shirley.
Okay, we cannot forget Shirley Caesar at all, okay? But we had those, you know, the gospel, even you go back as far as the gospel keynotes, the gospel keynotes, excuse me, and the Williams brothers. And I mean, even if you come on up to Hezekiah Walker and Fred Hammond, we have people that were going before us that regardless of what was going on in the industry, they were still seated and they were still influencing the industry, right? And I mean, I don't want to take away from, we have like Tasha Cobbs, I love her, right? But the thing about it is, everybody can't be Tasha Cobbs.
I think, you know what? I think we're on the same wavelength. Because I have been saying this so much. I'm not knocking the Ty Tribbett's. I'm not knocking the Mary Marys. I'm not knocking them. But I tell people all the time, you can't sing Can't Give Up Now if you didn't know I Don't Feel No Ways Tired.
Come on now.
Because Can't Give Up Now came out of I Don't Feel No Ways Tired.
Come on now.
Come too far from where I started from. So you can't tell me you know Can't Give Up Now if you don't understand that. And then the other thing is, you can't even really tell me you're the reason why I sing if you don't know His Eye Is on the Sparrow.
Come on now.
You get what I'm saying? So
listen,
I'm so grateful for growing up in that old dead church, as the people used to call it. Because, you know, growing up, that was the thing. If you won't jumping, hollering, and falling out, your church was dead. But what I found out is there were more devils in hell in the church where they was jumping and falling out than it was in my dead church. Because, in fact, my church was yet alive, and y'all over there living in the dead world. So I just, for you to say that, for you to even bring forth that light and the knowledge to this platform, I'm sitting here like, baby, I've been saying this so long, and people don't understand why this is important.
Oh my God. Listen, so I'm not going to go all off into it, but it's so important. And for me personally, I don't know if you know, I wrote a children's book, and music is my life, like music. And one of the things I talk to the kids about all the time, because we live in a generation that we're so beat focused and all of this. But when you really look at the African-American community and who we are and where we came from, you had spirituals. Because music was moved. I always say music was used to move us from one place to the other. And so you have to ask, when you're an artist now, and whether you're Christian, whether you're in any genre, where is my music really moving people to? I mean, and you know, people don't want to talk about it, but it's the truth, because it's the transformation. And so that's why I feel like, when you ask about how it feels, sometimes I'm gonna be honest with you, I want to break out of that limitation of I have to be a Christian artist, because you have people that are seated in all these places right now, and they're not looking for a title, they're not looking for labels, they're looking for somebody that's gonna feel their heart, their compassion, and be able to move them from a place of depression, suicide, you know, hatefulness, racism, classism, to a place of peace and actually knowing and encountering God. So yeah, we could talk about this all day, and I'm so happy that you allowed me to even come and just share my heart on it, because it's real.
Please. Oh my gosh, guys, if you're just checking in, this is just super awesome. Oh my gosh, I have Lonna Hardin here, and she is an inspirational songstress, and that's what we gonna classify her as. You know something? I'm so glad. You know, I'm so glad you let me know that it's okay not to call you a Christian artist, because I think that's a big part of the problem why people don't want to hear inspirational music now, because we put a title and a label on anything. But girl, my favorite phrase that I came up with is, anybody can have a title. That don't mean you qualify for the position.
Come on now. Come
so,
on.
So, because one thing I always remember is my dad telling me, Lily Mae, understand and read the word for yourself, because that preacher is a man. Although he's held to a higher standard, he's still a man, and man will fall at any given time. But if you know the word of the man that will not fall, will not slumber nor sleep, you're going to be okay. And so I'm okay. I don't need a title. You know, I look around and everybody want to put celebrity in front of their name and published and all of this. And my thing is, who are you? Oh, I'm Lily Mae, because my mama and daddy gave me that title. And I feel like if you can't use your name as your title,
come on now.
If your name
come on now
define you, it's something wrong.
Come on now.
The only way you feel significant and substantial is if you put celebrity or published in front of your name. I ain't knocking nobody, but I don't need nobody to tell me, because I was a celebrity when that mama and daddy of mine, like Sarah and Abraham, had me when they shouldn't have been able to have nothing. So I feel like I'm more famous than anybody else that walks the face of this earth. But once again, it's because I knew my position before I even had a title. Hello, somebody.
There you go. Yeah, I feel like it's interesting that everything is happening the way it is, because the truth is we've gotten so far away from the authentic gospel. The authentic gospel, which says that Christ can take someone like me, someone who probably has been way through more than you. Someone told me the other day, you don't look like you've been through anything. Well, that's a blessing, because guess what? But if God can take me, and I am the testimony, he can take anybody. And, you know, and I feel like this is one of the issues that we have, because there are real issues right now. There are real issues. I mean, let's not even talk about the economy and COVID. Everybody's talking about that. Let's talk about the sex trafficking that's happening, the human trafficking. Let's talk about the kids that are getting molested. Let's talk about households being turned upside down. Let's talk about a lack of fathers in the home. Let's talk about things that will actually heal and move us forward. A title's not going to do it. A position's not going to do it. Not even a gift. A gift is only going to take you so far. So I agree with you. And, you know, a lot of times people say to me, well, you know, because to be honest, I've just found out that at the end of the day, when you lie down in that dust, listen, when you lie down in that dust, when all of this comes off, when you know what, we can talk about it, okay? I don't know how real I could get, but listen, when you're done with the hair, when you're done with the lashes, when you're done with what is your heart? Where is your heart? I'm done on that note, because and you know what I'm saying is not even, this is real. This is real. And even, you know, when we talk about the last year of my life and going through stuff like that, like I've been in church all my life. I've always had faith in all of that. But the whole thing about seated is that your faith is going to be tried and tested at some point. So if your faith is in external things and things that are temporary and things that are passing, how are you going to survive the storms? You can't. You can't.
So y'all know normally on Sundays I host Primetime Raw and Uncut. Well, guess what? This is Primetime Raw and Uncut, and we are raw and uncut, and it's gonna get really, really real, because oh my God, Lonna. See, I think you a little bit more mature and seated than I am, because see, I still sometimes have to pick it up and make sure I still got it. 'Cause boy. I try to stay on the right, but boy, I can go left real heavy.
Hey, sometimes you got to though. Peter went left a couple of times. Peter was like, wait a minute, what?
I think that's who I am. I think that's who I might be. But
Christ needed him a Peter, just so you know.
baby. But the thing about it is, when I think about this notion of being seated, and guys, in a minute, Lonna's going to tell you where you can find her music and where you can find her on social media. But when I think about being seated, I think about something else. I think about the fact that I have always wanted to fix everything for everybody. But in 2020, he has shown me you can't be me. So sit your little narrow behind down. Well, it ain't that narrow, but sit your narrow behind down and let me do what I do. Because you trying to fix it and they not learning the lesson that I've been trying to teach them for a long time. Because every time I turn around, you putting your nose over there. Sit down, child. So when you come on here and tell me to be seated, I'm like, hold up, player. How's she gonna come on here and tell me to sit down? It's all good.
It's all
because
good.
What I know is that it is well.
It is well.
It is okay.
It is okay.
If you don't understand how well it is, if you don't understand how to cling to the old rugged cross, if you don't understand none of that,
come on,
you will not. You can't tell me that you understand. I'm telling you, you cannot tell me that you understand break every chain if you don't understand will the Lord remember me at the cross where I first
at the cross.
Like finally someone
where I first saw the light. Okay, that's where I first seen it. Was at the cross.
But it bothers me when I sit around with people and they can sing every gospel song that came out in the past 5 years. But if I don't even have to pick up the hymnal, because I can tell you right now that 189 in that New National Baptist Burgundy hymnal is "It Is Well With My Soul," and number 10 is "Oh How I Love Jesus." And so it concerns me when you can sit there and sing every word to break every chain, but you don't even know how to hum the songs that our ancestors sang, which were the songs that really got them over.
Listen, brought them out, okay? Brought them out. That's what I'm saying. They couldn't even communicate. This is what, let me say, we don't have to go on here because I'm telling you, it bothers me that as African Americans, Black American people, that we have become so focused on materialism that we don't understand that there are people who died so that we would have the voice to sing, the voice to proclaim freedom, the voice to speak out and speak up. You had people going through water and running for their lives, being chased by their slave owners, couldn't get to freedom, had to flee. For us to be singing, let me not even stop. Let me just stop because I don't want to put anybody. Because there's a time.
I'm with you. You ain't got to.
There's a time and a place to dance. There's a time and a place, but there's a time to mourn. There's a time to remember your ancestors. There's a time to make people's blood that was shed count for something. And at some point, you need to stand for something. Period. And and for me, I say this with the level of humility and conviction because I'm not perfect. I wanted to leave that scripture, Ephesians 2:6, which is where seated came from, that he made us sit together in Christ Jesus. Like I'm seated in Christ. I'm not seated in Lonna. I'm not seated in who I am. I'm seated in Christ. But I want to tell you that at the end of the day, Christ and every Black ancestor you have, and any person connected to your ancestry that came before you, paid a price so that you could lift up your head and hold it high. So yes, Lily, man, I mean, I'm gonna let it go because I don't want to be preaching, but I really, because it pains my heart when I see this generation killing themselves and playing Russian roulette with their lives, as if somebody didn't pay the price for your life. And so for me, like I said, I'm not perfect, but one thing I do forgetting those things that are behind me. I press, and I pray that everything my parents went through, my ancestors, the body of Christ, people who have bled and suffered, that I might have this opportunity to be here to speak today. I pray that their blood is worth something. Listen, I pray that Free at Last was not just a movement, but it is something that etches the airwaves and that it changes the atmosphere. When I sing, there's a frequency change. That means there's a shift. That means things are not all the same, but something is moving and changing in the atmosphere. And so I'm going to challenge people that are listening to music and listening to these artists and just taking anything in, that you have to ask, where is it moving me to? Where is it moving our people to? Come on now. All right, I'm done. But listen, it's real.
Lonna.
It's real.
Lonna, because what's getting ready to happen, you gonna tell the people where they can find your music and your social media. And then we gonna tell the people when you coming back. Because you know what? This conversation is not over. Because let me tell you something. Shout out to all the saints and the ain'ts, because I'm tired. Let me tell you how long I've been wanting to tackle church hurt for real. Like, cause see, I done danced around church hurt because I used to really care about hurting people's feelings.
Let me show it to you.
Hello, somebody.
Look at this.
Honey. I'm already with it. I'm all the way with it.
Listen, this is a book God gave me at the beginning of this year. The number one thing wrong with the Bible, Uncommon Wisdom for Healing Your Church Hurt. Come on now. Come on now. We can talk about this all day. Listen, it needs to be talked about. It needs to be talked about. People need to be healed. People need to be set free. Come on.
Because
I didn't mean to go there, but I'm saying.
Really, let me tell you something. I tell my mother this all the time. And one thing about my mother, even though she's older, she understands. I was like, honestly, Mommy, if I hadn't have grown up in my church, I would have left a long time ago, because I experienced some of the most hurt and I love my home church, but there were certain people in there that just could not grasp the fact that I was going to be who I was. I've always walked to the beat of my own drum. I walked into this world walking to the beat of my own drum. And so many people, now that I've gotten older, it's interesting how they receive me, because they realize, wow, her walking to the beat of her own drum has worked for her. And it's so interesting. People do not realize that church hurt is the reason a whole lot of people left gospel music and went secular, and now a lot of them dead and gone now. But they don't want to talk about that though.
Man, you know what? And it's so interesting. I would love to come back and have, because honestly, yes. I'm a survivor of church hurt.
Ooh, me too.
And not only am I a survivor of church hurt, let me tell you how deep that thing goes. I was a preacher's child. So I'm a preacher. My father has helped raise churches up. My mother was a preacher. Like, I came from a lineage of preachers, and I experienced church hurt more than once. And we don't have to talk about this right now, but like I said, God gave me this book and he told me to write it. And when he was telling me to write it, the number one thing wrong with the Bible, I was like, now I'm gonna be honest. You know what he told me the number one thing wrong with the Bible was? You. So we ain't gonna talk about it today. But listen, he told me that so many people have misplaced their faith. And that a lot of times when you see something, it's because you're supposed to be in that position, being that thing that God has showed you, because Christ was the living word. He was flesh and he dwelt among us. So we can talk about church hurt, because let me tell you, crushed, wouldn't go to a church, streamed for years, wouldn't go to a church. So we can talk about it, but I'm going to let it go today because it's real. There's a whole segment. There's a whole bunch of people.
Lonna.
Yes.
Ooh, Lonna, where you come from? Shout out to my girl. Shout out to my girl for making this happen. Shout out to my sweetie pie. Because we ain't even got to call you out because you know who you are.
Yes.
Baby.
Shout out to you for sure.
She knew what she was doing. She knew what she was doing when she did this. She knew what she was doing. I'm gonna give her to her. Girl,
it's a blessing. I'm happy. There's not enough people that are willing to tackle these issues, and they need to be tackled. And they need to be tackled.
I was tired. I was tired today. I was exhausted. I wanted to take 2 naps, but the first nap, I only got about 7 minutes in because I had a 2 p.m. Zoom call. And then I wanted to be up by 4 for you, but I couldn't take a nap because I was on the new app Clubhouse and I was in a room and they were talking about R. Kelly and supporting R. Kelly. And I had to comment on that because I needed to tell people to stop playing games and deal with the fact that we were all taught what goes on in this house stays in this house. And those are the type of things that's the reason all this foolishness is going on now, because didn't nobody tell the truth about that funny uncle back in the day, or that weird aunt back in the day, or mama's boyfriend now that don't really want you, but it wants your child. But we don't know. But we want to talk about all the people in the high places. Well, you can't sit low and look high. You got to look on your own level. But
listen, I'm about to just write like Jesus stooped down and started writing in the sand. I'm about to start writing. Because it's true. It's true.
Honey, you ain't got to tell me twice, girl. Let me tell you something. That's why I knew I felt like this was not going to be an interview, because it couldn't be an interview because our stories align too much. Our parental situations are so very interesting because this time 2 years ago, I legit thought my mama wouldn't be here in 2020 while she in ICU. And now she doing better than everybody else. And I'm like, what you got going on? I'm like, you're drinking a little more wine or something. What's going on? you know that generation, they feel like red wine cure everything.
Hey, don't get me to joking. I was gonna say it worked in the Bible.
Lonna, I'm so, oh gosh, you have given me a different burst of energy. How do we use whose we are, though, to truly reach the people that are scared to believe that that's whose they are? And I know that's loaded.
No, it's loaded, but even as we're, wrapping up and I'm thinking about, my heart is really for hurting broken people. That's who my heart is for. And that's who Christ came for, and that's who he dwelt among. He wasn't like way up, he was literally among people. And so I think the best thing that we can do really to be that light and to be that city that's set on a hill is love people and to be honest with people about our own experiences, about our own testimonies. And let me tell you, this is one of the things that the Lord actually told me in the book. He said that what people don't understand is that the Bible is still being written. He said, if you really look at the Bible, and he said, if you looked at the book of John and the book of Matthew and the book of Mark and the book of Moses, these were books of people's testimonies of triumph and how they overcame and about the goodness of God. Let me tell you, I'm telling you, this is what he told me. He said, and you have generations that don't even know God because the previous generations are not telling people how God brought them through. We're still going off of 3,000 words.
Because I'm self-made, and I'm a celebrity, and I'm self-made, and I did it all by myself. But shout out to my girl Marquita, because you know what she say all the time? When somebody had to give you the boots.
Listen,
And who gave you the strength to pull them boots up? Baby, look, y'all, if y'all just checking in and we wrapping up, but this thing is real.
It's real.
We don't need no script for this. We don't need no title for this.
No.
And the reality is that we not going to need to buy no views for this. Because the funny thing is, see, y'all going to bypass this because we not naked. We not twerking. You know what I'm saying? We not talking about, and I'm just going to say it, we're not talking about bitches and hoes.
Come on now.
So you're going to bypass this when the reality is this is what we all need. See, if we could all truly talk about we are all sinners, saved by grace and shaped in iniquity, then and only then can we really truly be transparent.
Come on now. Come on now.
I'm telling you, there was a time when I would not say that I done been a effed up person.
Come on now.
A whole BITCH.
Not once. Listen, Lily Mae. Not once, Lily Mae. Not twice. Let's talk about grace. Not I got it together on the first. Talking about a just man fall 7 times. Come on now.
Time 70. Girl, look, you did me. Look, you did. You know we angry black women. Let me fix it. You done got me passionate. But you know what? With this conversation, though, I salute our black men, and I say that because there are some of our black men out here who are so lost and rejecting the word of God for what it is because they associate it with how it came to us. I need y'all to understand something. The word was and is God. Mm-hmm. Now, whatever you feel like God is, that's on you. I know what I believe. I know what Lonna believed. I know what I was taught. But one of the things I want to say, and I'm speaking directly to my black men, because with black women, most black women going to follow whatever they man do. I'm just going to keep it real. But black men, understand this. If the only place that you can live and survive is in the Old Testament, you might want to check just how much of a man you really are. And I'm going to leave that right there. And I'm going to leave it right there. And you take it for what it's worth. Because truth be told, there are a lot of untold truths associated with the things that you guys are being taught in today's society versus listening to your ancestors and what they taught you. Because the reality is that our people back in the day, during those times, they had sense enough to understand that how they were beaten and treated was not of God. They knew that, but they did what they had to do to survive. But see, some of us are so ignorant that the only thing that we can associate is slavery. Christianity was used to justify slavery. Yes and no. We have always been an intelligent people.
Well, I want to say that I salute our African American men. I salute all men, but specifically ours. I one of my black brothers. And one of the things I'll say, because I didn't grow up with my father, and I told you he was a preacher, but he also served in 2 military. He was in the Navy and the Air Force, but was still called a second-class citizen. And when he fought over in the Vietnam War and he came back, he didn't get everything that was coming to him. And it took me years to realize the things that he went through as a black man that I could never understand. Now, I will say this in terms of my own belief as a Christ believer. I believe the reason I personally believe in the power of Christ is because I've seen the resurrection power of God in my own life. And so if you don't have that belief system that you can rise again, that you can get up again, that things can work for your good, that there will be vengeance, that evil will be repaid, and that there will be justice, and that there's one God, Lord over all, that has the power of life and death, I don't know how you can have hope. Because if you're looking at this world, you're never going to find hope. So I don't know about people's faith, but I think that, again, it's all about misplaced faith. And if we would put our faith in the right things and the one who created it all, the rest would just work itself out.
Guys, listen. You know, this was supposed to be an interview, and we did. I think the most authentic interview is when it turned into an intentional conversation, which is what this platform is all about. You know, I welcome you giving me, anybody giving me pre-selected questions. But one thing I know about my platform is that I can be confident in knowing that it is led by somebody other than myself. So I don't care who the guest is. I don't care what the topic is. I don't care how raw and uncut we get. The reason I know this platform is led by somebody other than myself, because stuff like this happens too often. Every time I decide, okay, Sundays were it. I wasn't doing any more Sundays, but every time I decide to take on a guest at an unorthodox time, it's always something that's beneficial to myself and the masses. So guys, let me tell you something. Like they used to say, y'all out here doing it for the vine. You better do it for the divine. And while y'all out here doing all this capping, y'all better get down somewhere and start clapping. Because the reality is there will come a time when the number of views and the number of followers and streams will no longer matter. And you can say what you wanna. That time is getting close. I never understood it like I understood it now, Lonna. I never understood what the elders were saying when they kept saying we living in our last days. When brothers are turning against brothers, daughters turning against mothers, sons turning against fathers, households are being broken up because of all of this foolishness, and all y'all want to do is put on facades for the world. I don't care what y'all think we supposed to be about. This is what I'm about. And if you don't like it, get to stepping. But if you love it, just keep on inviting your friends to follow us, because we're going to follow him while y'all follow us. And our hope and our prayer is that you will, through us, follow him too. And that's all I'm saying. Lonna, let them know where they can find you on social media.
I want to first of all say thank you again for letting me have this powerful conversation and be authentic, and I appreciate that. And you can find me at Lonna Hardin, LonnaHardin.com. You can follow me on Facebook and YouTube, Lonna Hardin Live, and you can also follow me on Instagram, which is Lonna LONNA_Hardin HARDIN. Please go listen to Seated. Seated is available. Thank you so much. Seated is available on all streaming platforms. Call your radio stations, request it. Powerful songs specifically for this time. And then drop us a line and let us know what you think. Definitely thank you again, Lily Mae, for having me on.
Absolutely. And guys, this is not the last you will hear from Lonna Hardin. But it is time for us to close out. Y'all know normally we don't go this long, but you know what? It went up to us today. And I don't care, because like I always tell y'all, see, y'all do what y'all can, but I do what I want. So welcome to the family, Lonna. You are officially a part of this family. And so we will have you back once again.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys, I'll see you on Tuesday for It's Consulting Time, the typical Tuesday, and you will find out what you're going to get if you come over to my Instagram at Sanaj Consulting Express without the E. Have a great evening, ladies and gentlemen.